Welcome to today's Social Science Data Lab on using AI tools for research by Olga Kononykhina. The Social Science Data Lab is an event series at the Mannheim Center for European Social Research that provides a platform for researchers to present tools and methods for the collection, management, analysis, and visualization of data in the social sciences. We're very happy that Olga is with us today. She's a mid-career PhD researcher at LMU Munich and the Munich Center for Machine Learning, and she holds degrees in applied mathematics and sociology. She has 15 years of research and consulting experience in measurement systems, indicator frameworks, and data analysis in social and political contexts. She is passionate about improving data literacy and communication through interactive data platforms and storytelling. And her academic specialization focuses on enhancing occupational data quality for machine learning classification and exploring intersections of machine learning, biases, official statistics, AI governance, and privacy. In this workshop today, Olga will walk you through the different stages of the research process and introduce existing AI tools that can assist you in tasks such as formulating your research questions, finding relevant literature, analyzing data, and proofreading your writing. Just some housekeeping, we're recording this live stream, as always, in active speaker mode. So the audio from on-site and remote attendees will be recorded. And if your video is on while asking a question online, your video will be recorded as well. Very happy you're here today, Olga, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here, and hi to everyone on Zoom as well. And like Alex said, I will walk you through the tools that I personally tried and use as well. And it's a long presentation, so maybe if you have some questions, you don't wait until the end because there will be a lot of information happening. And I think by the end, you know, we might all be tired. So if we want to have like a talk, do ask your questions right away. And also because I will be showing how these tools work live. If you have, you know, your research question that you want to try out or like to see how it works, please let's do that instead of seeing how I use those tools. I think that would be nicer. Okay, so. Okay, perfect. I think this one we can skip because Alex already explained who I am and what am I doing. And this is a short summary of what we are going to go through today. And we can't make it a bit darker, can you? So I think it might be hard to see now. So first we'll talk very briefly about large language models and AI tools and what it means for us as researchers to use those things. Second, I'll walk you through the tool that helps you to generate the research questions and work with your research questions. Third is to find your literature, the relevant literature, then the tools that help you to connect your papers that you know exist with everything else that you might have missed. Then we will talk about how we can read the papers that we selected with the help of AI. And then we'll very briefly touch on the analysis, because I'm sure if you know any of your code, you already tried to ask ChatGPT to help you with the Python code, etc. So I will just highlight what it can do, definitely, and you could also try some unusual things. Then I'll walk you through the tool that helps with the proofreading and editing of your work. And then the tools that help you to present your work. Then how you could use ChatGPT for, I think, the most important part if you're researchers, and especially if you're doing your PhDs with your motivation, that's, you know, writing PhDs or any kind of long-term project is sometimes becomes a hustle that gets to your head way more than it should. And so I wrote a few prompts that, like, I show basically how it could be used to help you out, you know, to drag out of your head and be productive. And some other research tasks that we as researchers sometimes have to do because we are part of this university community or research project community, and sometimes we have to do things that are not related to us producing research outputs, but, you know, we have to instruct other people, we have to communicate to the outside people about our research, etc. So the AI tools or ChatGPT could help with that as well. Okay. So when we start, there are 5 things that I want to remind you of regarding the AI and large language models. So first, the LLMs it's still a statistical tool, right? It's not a magic box. It's not your super smart companion that is now going to answer your things. And even though sometimes when all of us use these tools, it looks like a fantastic thing, but we should really never be fooled into the idea that it knows so much and more than we really should, because again and again, it is just predicting the next words with training data that we fed it to. And of course, the devil lies in the details of what kind of data was fed into this machine. And you probably all read the news about how the companies who produce these large language models, they tweak the model so they would be more politically polite, or the Midjourney is now randomly throws that when you ask to draw a person, then this requests randomly gets few times that it has to be not a person but a woman. But it's basically not your request, but it's just they kind of found the jailbreak that way. So there are things and tweaks that keep happening, and we should keep remembering about it. But it is really, really hard, because the design of these large language models is to please you, right? So they do want you to like them. they do want they do want to like you to like their answers way more than they want to be accurate. So that's like another thing that is always important to remember. The third one is that AI did master what people in psychology would call the cold reading and the Barnum effect. So cold reading is, all this psychic people, etc., who can tell you, you I don't know, suffering from lost love, and you're not great with your mother, etc. And depending on your day, right, you can attribute that to whatever happens on you. Like, wow, these people really see me. So that's the perfect artificial way of the psychic people that you might have encountered or heard about. The Barnum effect is the horoscopes, right? When things are written very generically, but again, it gets you on a certain day, and somehow you're like, exactly, this special meeting that is happening this week is going to change my life, etc., etc. And so again, the AI models, they are very, very active on they get to us in that way. Doesn't make them accurate again. And I think there is, maybe you also experience that when first you think that's how amazing these tools are, and then sometimes you keep asking them the questions that you are interested in and that you know about, and then you see that they're not very knowledgeable or correct. Again, AI does sound like an expert, especially what we don't know about, and that's a tweak that it will try to, again, please us instead of being accurate. So that's another potential danger. So when we want to quickly learn about the topic and we ask AI models to tell us about the topic, we might be in danger to hear what American company engineers trained it on instead of what is actually happening in the world. And still, regardless of all those things, AI is really, really good at some tasks. And I just put some of the ones that I find especially fascinating. That's when you get some really nasty email and you also want to answer it in a nasty way, but then you do ask ChatGPT to help you out to not be that nasty, and it does become very polite. So you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. That I do find it very fascinating that it can explain the same thing to a 5-year-old, to an academic, to a CEO, etc., pointing out the different things. And it does easily generate multiple versions of the same concept story to help you out to improve your, I don't know, LinkedIn profile, etc. Yeah. So there is a recent book that I really enjoyed. It just got released, I think, 1 week ago. And I like these principles that are highlighted in that book. So basically, again, something that we should remember about is that as a researchers, we should always invite AI to the table. We should work with it, just even for the sake of that this technology is not going to disappear from our lives. And we can either learn to live with it and know what it can do, and especially what it cannot do, or where we are in danger as people who produce knowledge from the technology. So it has to be there, and we should be using it. We should always be the human in the loop. So all these things where it tries to please us, to not be fooled by this pleasing attitude, but try to really check of what it advises us to do or tells us that this is true. The third one is that we do have to treat, not have to, but it's, I think, beneficial for us to treat it like a person, but we can always say what kind of a person it is. So the better we specify, the more interesting answers we will get. And the fourth one, I think the most important one, we are at the very, very beginning of this AI era. So what we now have is the worst ever AI that we will have. And it will get better. So things that we are limited with right now is not going to be the same in, I don't know, 5 years. So now as for tools for research questions. I so far only know, so there will be somewhere will be 3 tools, somewhere will be 2 tools. For the research questions specifically, I only know of 1 tool that is called Research Click. It's a very new thing that just recently appeared, and it helps you in 3 ways. So you give it a general description of what it is that you're looking for, and it offers you a list of research questions that could be associated with it. You can either then refine those questions and say, yeah, like, please elaborate on the question number 2, or please generate more questions. Or if you are satisfied, you can say, okay, which kind of, what literature, what other papers answered those questions before? So that could be your bridge to the previous literature that you can look at if you're interested in a specific topic. However, there is no free version, so it's, and you pay for, they have some sort of coin system, right? The number of credits or coins that you use. So it's not per month, it's this per number of requests. So I think if you are actively in this research question development stage of your project, that might be maybe 20 euros you would have to spend on it. But again, if you don't actively, super actively sit on it, it won't be too expensive. But that's a downside of all these tools, that almost none of them are actually for free. But let's try to use it. Let's see. Here we go. Does anyone want to give a try? Or who wants to give it a try? Because this one is what I tried, right? So at first we can. So it first asks you to please enter the topic of your research or a relevant keywords. Who wants to try? Here we go. Absolutely.
Can I say populist attitudes and human rights? Populist attitudes and human rights.
Attitudes and human rights.
Master thesis. Hey, it's free.
So how do populist movements in various political contexts affect the implementation and acceptance of international human rights norms? What are the common It got inside.
That's good. Yeah. Okay.
What are the common patterns in the rhetoric used by populist leaders regarding human rights, and how do these patterns impact public attitudes towards human rights within their countries? Number 3, can an increase in populist attitudes be correlated with a decline in the enforcement of human rights laws at the national level? Number 4, how do populist governments interpret and redefine human rights to align with their political agendas, and what are the implications of these redefinitions for marginalized communities? In what ways do populist movements use social media to shape public discourse on human rights? And what impact does this have on protection of human rights? How do educational systems in countries experiencing a rise of populist attitudes address human rights issues, and what changes occur in the curriculum related to human rights education? What roles should it continue? Yeah. Is there anything that looks a bit interesting? So we could just see how that thing works.
Like definitely, like we continue, like we build on what?
Yeah. Let's try to build on this. There one of those, or you want something completely different?
Can you maybe go to the first one again? Okay, let's make it number 3. Look at number 3.
So after it gives you this, it usually gives the 10 ideas, right? And then it says, please look at it. And if you find it interesting, then tell us which one you find interesting. If you don't find anything interesting, say that this thing needs to produce stuff again. And we can say number 3.
Okay, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So is this so this is an app, it's an extension to ChatGPT?
It's based on the ChatGPT. You don't have an account. You don't have to have an account with the ChatGPT.
So I just download this app?
It's a web app. You don't download it.
Okay.
It's so you go to this app, researchkick.com. You create an account.
Okay.
And
It has the same surface.
so I basically just use my browser. This is how all they look. They're all in browsers. I don't have any app in a app web.
Following up on that, what's the advantage of this, or what information does it have beyond me just asking GPT for? Is it coming in through prompt templates? Is it sitting on a RAG? What sort of infrastructure does it have that's giving me more information than simply giving my money to Sam Walton?
So that's a good question. They did fine tune it somehow. And so I'm not the developer of any.
I'm gonna go research this myself. I'm curious. I'm just wondering.
So I do find this one, when I compare, right, what ChatGPT produces, I find this one more research related, because I know that the people who did this are researchers themselves, and they work actually, I think one works in a linguistic and the other is a computer scientist. So this covering of social science domains, because generally with GPT, I find that if you are a medical or like physics person, then it works better for you than the social scientists. And with this one, I find I get ideas that I'm like, oh, that's actually good stuff. Like it's been a while I got this, oh, that's a good stuff from GPT itself.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I also came across this Scholar GPT. There's also, I guess, some sort of variation version similar to this one developed by ChatGPT or OpenAI. How is that different than this research cake?
Is it the one that is attached to the ChatGPT within it?
Yeah.
So this one, again, this one came like the most recent ones, and I kind of got really hooked on it. So I tried the Scholar before, and if it's better, like you can talk to it in a way that it gives you good answers, because it's all about prompting, right? Well, like maybe you know the way how to talk to it that I don't. So, and this one to me, it seems like good, works well for my brain, right? I kind of give it my very general things, and then it actually narrows it to research questions that I can, put in, and nobody will say this is not a research question, because that's like my big fear, right? When you go to present and people are, that's not a research question. You're like, yeah. Yes.
If already like the program like is spitting out these questions, does it mean somebody already researched them?
That's what we can find out. What do you think of this, whatever they wrote here?
Okay, let's go with the first one for like, yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Okay, number 1 is perfect.
Being too nice, just in case.
So then basically when you say, okay, this is what I want to do, and then it does ask you, do you want to know if it has been answered already? How is generated? Okay, so then it tells you that this question hasn't been directly asked before, but it does give you a few papers that potentially could be relevant. I won't speak for the, like, I don't know if it's really relevant, that part, I'm not very sure. Like sometimes it does, it did give me once a very similar paper that was answering the question that I was interested in, and it was like super good. Some other times it's, you know, like not super relevant. But again, I'm more for the first part, helping with the ideas for the research questions to form them again in this scientific field appropriate type of thing. So to me, that's like works well. But that's basically the follow up, and yeah, again, something like it will definitely cost money. Not as much, but still. All right. Let's go to the other one. All right, now the tools that help us to find relevant research articles. Here I have the three, and the first one, it's the consensus. So again, those are all the apps. And consensus app is great for if you want to ask the yes/no questions, which are not always the easiest to be in the social sciences. But again, I personally use it a lot for you know, when the life questions appear. Just something like, does it make sense to take 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, right? Because you hear some nutritionist says that it's beneficial, very beneficial. And they're like, okay, science doesn't know about it. But so it does have a great tool. It has a like this kind of a visualization that shows you how many papers that have been published on these questions agree with this thing, disagree, or have a neutral opinion, and then you can filter by them. So you could see also if it's like a systematic review, etc. So basically the quality of the papers. And it does have, I think, 1 or 2 tries you can do for free, probably even without an account. So it does have some tryout thing. And then you can, when you find the papers, you can always export them into your library that you use. And usually they link it to Zotero. So you could use whatever to Zotero or any other libraries that you prefer. So Elicit was, it's the other tool that was the first one, I think, that like really appeared. And I really liked them back then, and when they were still an NGO. And now they're not an NGO anymore, so there's no more free usage and of their tools. And it's again this coin system. Since when I was supporting them as an NGO back in time, right, because they had this thing that you could support them, they gave me quite a few credits, and I haven't used all of them yet, so I don't know how much it would cost, but probably again like around like 10, 15 euros a month or something like that. So Elicit is good for searching for papers. You type your question that you have, it searches for papers. It also searches for concepts, which I also find interesting. So you would say whatever you want to find out, and then it gives you the relevant concepts that exist. And the third one is a thing called SkySpace, but it sits on a different domain that is called typeset.io. That one, they all work kind of in a similar way. So you type your question, it gives you the list of relevant papers. You can filter it by the quality of the papers, by the year, etc., etc. And the last one has an advantage that you could also, there is a copilot, so you can click on a paper and ask questions about that specific paper if you want to. Let's try those out. So Elicit is here, so we can try Elicit is here. That's what I was looking at yesterday. So I'm writing a paper, and one of the indicators that I use is the length of answers and the open-ended questions. And basically, you know, in the paper, they just use it without implying that is it actually really better. So that's what I asked the Elicit, is the answer, is the longer answers are really better. So it gave me, as a result, it gave me papers, the list of papers. And here is the abstract of those papers. And then it summarized the papers for me. Basically, that said what it is in here. I'm always very cautious about this kind of summaries. So I do like if I have to read the report, let's say from the UN, or whoever publishes this very long reports, then I really like when this thing summarize the findings for me. If it comes to the scientific papers, I'm super skeptical because until I see why it decided that this is the answer, I find it very difficult. But I will show you the tool that does have, like you can see in the paper where it came from. But again, so that does find you articles, and there was a does anyone want to try? No research questions?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Leah. If tools can access papers without open access, I don't think so.
So you asked, a lot of papers aren't open access. Do we know whether these tools can also access those papers?
Mm.
Or is this all based on open access articles?
Yeah, so they do have some papers that are not open access, and they do produce summaries based on them, but you can obviously, to see the paper, you would have to get access to the paper. So it won't like give you the text of a paper, but it does look at some findings from it. But I think some of those tools probably were fine-tuned on some papers that are not open access. So theoretically, we could see, like they could type what was the methodology that is not described in the abstract. But again, they won't give you the text of that paper itself. At least that's my experience. So anyone wants a research question?
Sorry, does it also include books? Do they have books? They're like papers, but longer with covers.
The last one, this size space, it does. So they have,
Okay.
they also have whatever is not even the like reports.
Okay.
Or something. Yes. This one, I'm not sure. I think they only do the papers.
Okay.
Yeah, we can ask the one from my bachelor thesis, I guess.
Fantastic. The bachelor thesis question. The
It was-
question you can evaluate
Yeah.
the reference. Please.
It was how does the use of populist rhetoric
Wait. How
Okay.
does the use of populist rhetoric?
Very-
Okay, it's with C, rhetoric, like this?
Yeah.
I'm super bad at spelling.
all good,
Uh,
vary across
very across.
issues or like the use of populist rhetoric in election manifestos vary across issues being across issues, yeah.
Across issues. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so by default, it will show eventually, the name of the paper and the abstract, right? But we can also add some other things, and this is what they call talk to the paper, right? So we can also say, what was the data source that the paper relied on? Or what was the outcome? What was the limitations of the paper? I think a lot of it still comes from the abstracts. Again, the usability of specific details about the papers are, you need to be that human in the loop, like that's unavoidable. Okay, tell us what you think of the. So I found recent papers. Does it make sense? Does it look interesting? Does it look something that you used in your papers?
They don't look familiar to me right now. But from the summary, they are seem useful. I mean, one says that
Some.
talks about economic issues, for example.
Okay, so they're not like out of range, at least.
2022.
Okay.
Quite recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of these papers, they don't have citations or they don't have the PDFs attached, right? So they do show them, but without the PDFs. Okay. And let's try the other one. All right. So here is the consensus. And we need some okay. Somebody has more
So again, should we ask if like bigger election districts affect vote, whatever, like your paper about the size of election districts?
Fine.
But yeah,
does the size of election district affect what?
Affect trust in political system or trust in
what is trust?
no, what is it? You know, confidence in democracy or something. No, what is it? Satisfaction with democracy. Yeah.
So here, when we ask the questions here, it did give a summary, but here usually it appears like a visualization if there's like it's a well-researched question, like for the vitamins, that will tell you if papers agree, if there is a consensus among the scientists.
Yes.
So it says that they do, right? And then basically gives you the paper, how many times it was cited, highly cited paper, short description of why, what was the finding. Is it something that you know about?
Yeah, well, it's pretty impressive thing.
Hey, good for consensus. Yeah, so here you can, here I don't use premium, right? But then, so I can show you what happens if you click on this snapshot, etc. Yeah, so you can use it, I think you can use it twice even without an account. And then I created an account and you can use it inside, like how we tried and it worked.
So they want us to get addicted and then they want to.
We'll be the humans in the loop, right? To use the
Yeah, yeah.
papers and then eventually. Okay, that's the third one, the sky space. So what I find about sky space interesting is that, so again, you type your question here, it gives you the summary, refers to the papers, but not a specific part in the paper again. This tool is interesting because it's a bit more messy in a way. So there are interesting papers not from your fields that get in and they are interesting, but sometimes there are obviously papers that are have nothing to do with your field. And like here I ask a very social sciencey question, but then something on the ophthalmology comes in, something on the medical stuff comes in, which let's say I was looking for about a few months ago, I was looking for papers on how AI is used to design surveys. So basically, can AI be, instead of a filter, like help the respondent to shorten the survey? And there were no papers on it. I mean, I hope that paper will produce something that I can quote, but basically, then it gave me lots of interesting papers that are not there, but sort of similar, that other tools did not give me. So I like this tool for this edgy case where nothing is available, but I still need to write something. Okay. Sorry for, okay. And then the thing, so here you could also choose the paper and you can talk to it, right? You can say, ask Copilot. Yeah, so they all have this multiple columns that you can talk about. Where's the comment? There's the comment. Oh, it doesn't want to come. Well, it doesn't want to talk to us. So normally when you click on this thing, there is a window appears, and then you can type and ask some questions about it specifically. Okay, let's go back. There you go. Yeah, so illicit and typesets, they don't have free versions. Consensus does have a free version. Okay. Then we have tools to find connected papers. And here there is this one tool that I like, it's the Research Rabbit. But they're basically, so you already found some papers that are relevant to you. And then you're like, am I covering everything? Or should I keep sitting in the reference part after this interesting papers that I found? So Research Rabbit is exactly for that. You give it papers that you have, and then it finds the similar papers that potentially could be interesting. It can sort them by years. It can sort them by authors, by co-authors, last author, first author, etc., etc. And it's for free. So, let's try it out. So here we can't do a live thing because we need to upload the papers. So I gave it, not the papers physically, but the names of the papers, right? So I gave it the sub-library that I have. I use bookends, so not Zotero, but they have very good integration with Zotero that I cannot speak for because I don't use it. You give it the papers that you are interested in, and then it can give you the list of similar works and also links them on a graph. And you can, yeah, so it's basically throws them by network, by timeline, by authors, whatever filters you want. It can show you all the earlier works or whoever wrote based on this interesting paper that you find. So just to see if whatever it is that you're missing right now, right, when you found the great paper, I think to me, it's especially like what comes afterwards, right? Because a lot of our papers are interesting ones are from like 2005 and you don't want to go back that much, especially if you write about something that's, I don't know, about VOP surveys, etc. Or populism. This one is for free, right? So you can use it as much as you want, as you want. And all these other papers that you find, then there is a short description. So you cannot talk to the paper or filter it anyhow. It's just a paper, but then you can export it to your library and maybe then find it again in one of these search for papers things and talk to it. Okay. And
Can you upload like a BibTeX file or like?
I think so. Okay. So here it's, if it exports there, I think it should import. We can.
That's big.
Yeah, so you can, right?
Okay. It's on. Yeah, exactly.
So, next one. Yeah. Now the fun part, the tools for reading papers. So there are two. One that I really like, and the other one that also exists, and maybe some people like it too. So like I said, my problem is that I don't really trust the summaries. I find them too good to be true sometimes. So I really want to see where this whole thing comes from. And the first one, so Scholarcy, it's a good tool when we should just get to it. No, so that's discuss books. Scholarcy. Maybe it didn't say something. Or maybe we won't be able to show because I don't have an account with this thing. Or maybe no, I do. Sure, I do.
Prime Netflix. There isn't.
So I think this is an example of a paper. So you upload the paper in there, and there are a few things. So basically, first it gives you the list of concepts that you might be interested in, and like to me, it's, for example, I focus a lot on the quality. How do you measure the quality of data in social surveys? And so basically, it's never on the title, right? So people usually don't measure those things, but it's mentioned somewhere in the measurement section. So I try to filter all the papers that I need by this. Did they even define what the quality is? Or they don't even talk about whatever they measure as a quality. I like the part on the synopsis because it's sort of tries to tell you the story of this paper in a human way, not scientific way. So it explains a little bit who was there, why it happened. Then there is this part that is the scholarly highlights. So it takes it from the paper itself and puts it together. So in that way, like this part I find very useful. But again, it's not always the most interesting part that I need, for example. Like it's good to get familiarized with the field that you don't know about, I guess. But whatever comes here, it's basically depends on how this app is working, not based on what exactly you need to filter it on. This part is interesting, the comparative analysis. So there is a text of the paper itself, and then you can see when so I think it reacts to the words, contrary to the previous works in, I don't know, the same as the other author said. So it reacts to those words and I put it in here. So it basically says how it builds on research, how it differs from the research. It always makes me wonder, like, if I should change my writing style to, to make it, easier for machines. So then we have results that are also taken from the paper, but I can't vouch for, how it decides what is important to put in there, because surely the results section is not one paragraph. And it also helps you to create this little flashcards about the papers. And I think, again, in general, if you get familiar with the field, it could be helpful, because so many papers that we go through and then we just want to know what's the deal. And so that one is helpful. When we're digging for something specific, I'm not very sure.
Any tools that will also summarize results that aren't written in English, or allow a scholar who's not a fluent English speaker to engage with the English language research literature?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I mean, I personally haven't tried to search on this ones in the other language. Yeah, I guess if they're not connected to one of these big, Scopus or whatever, they might not even be listed. And I also wonder, because there was a paper recently on LLMs that was saying that even when they talk to you in other language, then they still translate from English to you. In the back, yeah. So it's sort of like what kind of summaries we will get. if it reads the paper in Chinese, then translates it, I guess, in its back into English, then and explains the findings to you in other language, like, you know, because I think in science papers, the nuances, like what kind of words they use. Did they say affects, impacts, the causes? And who knows if the translation would be more certain than the authors themselves, for example. Yeah. So, yeah, but they do allow you some parts that you can use for free, at least to try it out. Then we have Komata.
Is it possible then combine two searches or something? So you're interested about the quality of survey questions in a particular context?
Mhm.
Is it possible there?
Should
Or
I
do I
say?
need to by hand to filter out, this is not the context I care about?
I can't filter. So here I cannot filter here anything.
Would it be more specific? I care about, you know, this in this context?
No, I think it just summarizes it for you. Because I don't remember. I used it a few times,
Okay.
but then I found matter and I just moved on. So Komata is this kind of tool where it's gonna move. So on the left is the chat about the paper. On the right is the paper itself. And then you can ask the questions and then it produces the whatever blurb it produces. But then it gives you this little, you know, this 5, 3, whatever links. And when you click on it, it will take you to the parts in the paper where it took this information from. The only part that I don't like that you cannot copy paste whatever it highlighted. Like that would be right, because then you like because I usually like putting it in my Rome research for, you know, the other tool where I collect all the quotes before they become my literature review. So this one, it's like great, 90% great. Let's see. Okay, so here you'll need a paper or multiple papers. You can also understand the multiple papers. It does offer you initial blurb. So it summarizes the paper for you and then also like offers you some things that you might be interested in. This one is not from the paper itself. It's my highlights with the blue yellow. So we can ask one of those questions, or we can specifically say what's going on in there. We'll have to wait until it's done, and then they get highlighted. Okay. So then, for example, here is the summary about the final pre-processing and correction, etc., etc. And then this light yellow color is what the algorithm thinks is the relevant part. So to me, it's like I really, at least I know what it is that they talk about. And there are some of the papers where it doesn't work well, but for most of the papers, it does work well. And this tool is like something that really speed up my papers reading mission to include it in my literature review, because then I'm also like really sure that it actually was said in the paper. And I think also helps mentally when you start with this thing. And then you're like, oh, okay, so this is what this paper is about, right? And then you start actually like reading all of it in more details, and somehow it really works. So I would absolutely recommend this. We have questions, I think. No, just okay. Go back.
I have a question for the last two. Do you know whether this program somehow saves the paper you upload to it? And is it the problem from a legal perspective that you maybe are not allowed to share some papers you have paid for. It's, for example, for some journals, and when not open access.
That's a good question. I don't know. I know that they are funded by, not funded as a established, but funded as gave money. So Google gave them lots of money to this tool, and then they were like, this one became, I think it's the new like OpenAI platform research, because they got gigantic funding recently. I don't know if it's my, privacy guess would be that whatever you really don't want to be out, especially if it's some secret paper, very secret paper, don't put it out. But but otherwise, I mean, this whole thing only works if you upload the exact paper there. I don't know. We'll have to actually read through the terms of use.
Yes, so the website says something about encryption and how it's secure, but of course they would have to access the data if they want to do anything with it. So I don't know.
So we might be feeding them the good context, right? Fine. All right. Well, the data analysis part. So here I just believe that you all already use it for your analysis, and there are things that I find specifically useful for it. So first is I find it super useful to ask ChatGPT to rename my variables that I sometimes use for the publications, because I see it often in the in the descriptions, and you're like, what is this paper and what is this variable doing? And then you go to the paper and like you dig into it, and I find that ChatGPT is very good in me trying to explain what my variable is about, and then it gives it a very good name. So then I know that there is research keep popping up on using analyzing the exact answers that people give you in the surveys, especially open-ended questions, and I would caution against it. Because, for example, if you use some expert surveys and there are, I don't know, 100 people in the world that know about this topic, then whatever you feed into machine, there is a potential chance that those people could be identified, right? Because there are just few of them who know about I don't know, specific populists' dreams because they're psychiatrists or something, right? I also find it interesting to, when I build visualizations, to ask ChatGPT for the colors, to find me matching colors for, like, if I use two and then I need the third one, so it works really well. Then I also often ask it to rewrite my functions that I write to make it faster working. It's usually really important if you build some web app or like Shiny apps, etc., because the longer your code and if it's not a function, then it affects how fast your app will be performing on the web. But again, I did find that sometimes I'll ask it to rewrite the code that has, let's say, 4 steps. And then it does rewrite the code, but it forgets one of the steps. And it could randomly, so like usually first step is there, last step is there, but the second or the third, it's just not there. And then I would ask, like, what happened with the third one? And it would say, oh, I was just showing you a model version of how it could be done.
Yeah.
So again, right, it's like just be that human in the loop, and that's like, there's like a minefield where you don't expect it. And especially, when the code is long and it kind of looks like it makes sense to you, but then, yeah, it's that thing just plays its own game. So sometimes I do give it a little snippet of my data, especially if it's a text data, like a little bit, maybe 2 or 3, and say, look, this is my variables, this is my text, potential answers, like, can you write me function that would do X, Y, Z, etc. So that one, it usually processes it very well. And the titles for figures and the tables, that's my personal pain. I never know how to well describe what is it exactly happening on my tables. I mean, I know that's why I write the paper, but then to make the short version, so GPT is my friend. Proofreading and feedback. Okay, the proofreading, it's the edit GPT. It's the tool that's it does have some free version, but then you also like if you need more longer texts to proofread, it's a paid version. What I like about it is that it does the same as if it was a human person editing your work. So it's in Microsoft Word, so they just cut out your words and then they add the other ones, and you can accept specific ones, or you can accept all of them or reject all of them. And they also have different styles. So there is a proofread, there is casual, there is scientific. However, I think with a proofread, it only fixes your grammar, basically, or some really weird usage of words. So it would be a minimum, so your voice will be there. If you ask it to like change, because there is a heavy editing, etc., so then you would see that GPT natural voice comes out, and it all becomes about delving and embarking and revolutionizing, and you know all those favorite words come there. Let me show you how it works. So that's the text from one of my papers. So those are different versions, and you can also add more. And when you click on proofread, yeah. So basically, it's everything that stayed black is exactly the same text, and then everything that became green is the edited text. And I can say, okay, this makes sense. So that one I can accept. This I can say, no, I don't like it, so I can reject, or I can accept and reject everything. I can also say, okay, make it very academic. Academic usually edits a lot of my texts. It doesn't think I'm very academic. Oops. It doesn't want to edit the academic one. Yeah. So then one became, you know, way more whatever you see in the papers kind of a text. I'm still battling the part where it's my voice and has to be there, right? Versus not the same voice from academic papers. So, but then again, it's whatever you might need. I find this one super helpful because I'm not a native English speaker, so some of the words or grammar constructions that make sense to me sometimes don't make sense according to these people. Okay. Feedback. So what I like about ChatGPT is to ask it for feedback, because I'm the kind of person who likes numbers, and I am also terrified when I have to give my paper and receive a feedback. I really need the lay of the game before I go and surrender myself. So what I usually ask it, and I ask it to be this critical person and give me feedback according to, give me a grade basically from 0 to 100%. And then it describes and it says, okay, for this part you get, I don't know, 60, for this part you get 70, etc., etc. Then what I do, I also ask it to be the worst possible reviewer, and said, you're this reviewer who gave me, let's say, 5 out of 20 on this paper. Why did you give me this score? And then it starts like really going, it will tell me, oh, you forgot this ethical considerations, you forgot this, and you did mention that. And sometimes it's like, of course, sometimes it mentioned things that don't exist, right? So it's not like I didn't mention that topic, it was never researched. But other times I actually get something interesting and I see, oh yeah, that makes sense, that I didn't include it in my argument, would be helpful. And I think at least what I do for my work with ChatGPT, and like 6 months ago, I was doing this AI governance training course with lots of business people. So those who run, the large companies in Europe. And what they were saying, because their trade secrets are more expensive than our papers technically. And so I was asking how they use the ChatGPT and what's their rules, and they told me that they're allowed to use ChatGPT, but only if it's on this private mode. So don't say no history, do not use for further training, etc. So to me, it's my baseline. Like if AstraZeneca is doing that, I can be probably okay, okay as well. Or at least, the secrets of AstraZeneca would be in the same box as my paper. Yeah, but basically, of course, to get the feedback from ChatGPT, you need to give it your draft. All right. Tools for presentation. So this presentation was built in that tool that's called Beautiful AI. And I like it because it gives you 1 year free access, but you have to write to them if you work in academia or if you're a student, which is very nice because I think monthly ones are something ridiculous, like 50-60 euros, which I don't know if I would pay 50-60 euros, but if it's for free, I really like it. So what it does really well, it has this predefined templates. And then when you write the text, it changes the sizes automatically. So everything is always balanced. The sizes, whatever you've seen the other presentations, the sizes of squares, sizes of text, it all looks nice, and you can automatically change the colors, and they will always be balanced colors. So very good. And so this presentation, I think I did it for something like 3 hours completely from scratch. So including also asking ChatGPT to generate those papers. So speed-wise, like if you really need to produce something fast in a way, I mean, you kind of have to have an idea what you want to produce, right? Because it's not great to generate the slides for you. It will embark and revolutionize, and all those things will be there. It does have an option to create the slide for you, but I really don't like it. But otherwise, for this part that always takes forever for me to align the PowerPoint to look great, I really like this one. I still battle with it to use the LMU templates for it. So that one is a bit difficult. But what I found is that I create presentation here, then I downloaded it as a PowerPoint, the normal one, because you can download it, and then I just apply the template from the university on top of it. So I still get all of these cute things, the colors, etc., and the color appropriate scheme from the university. Yes.
What about mathematical, formulas and stuff? Suppose you want to present a formula. This is then like in what is this PowerPoint?
You would type it as you normally type it. How would
I
you know
normally
that
would
information?
type this in LaTeX.
Yeah, I don't think it supports LaTeX. I haven't typed formulas in there yet. Yeah, so probably it will have to go down to be downloaded as a PowerPoint, and then you can insert, or you can do a print screen of your formula and insert it as a picture,
This gets resized, I understand, to make this, to harmonize the layout.
No, you can insist that it should be smaller or bigger. It's just like if this, for example, if this one would be smaller, then this one would get bigger, right? So then I can balance it in that way. But this one could also, because this one a picture, it could become an icon, so it could also be like super small. Or you can also individually add an element, force to say, okay, this has to be there and a part of it. So that's also possible. Okay, motivation. So what I personally also write about ChatGPT is, these moments of darkness when you're not feeling like a good researcher, and sometimes it can help. And so I created few scenarios. I mean, it's all, of course, individual for whatever things you could struggle potentially when you do your research and things are not doing very great. But just as an example of how that could work. Right, so scenario 1, I have a deadline to submit an outline, but I'm very anxious about the quality and feedback I will get. So I'm postponing to start writing and being blocked. Can you address my anxiety with the short messages inspired by the color and low entitled of work? Very good coach that I like her work. That I can hold on to and repeat to myself to accomplish my assignment. And then it produces a longer word, like it produces a bit of a longer text, but then basically it gives you something to say, okay, my anxiety is a sign of my commitment to excellence. Each word I write is a step toward mastery, not a test of my words. I'm like, okay, when, things are not going great, something, even a little bit of positivity could help. Next one, expecting difficult feedback. Right, prompt. I have a feedback session with my PhD supervisor, and I'm expecting they will be very disappointed with my progress. Can you reframe my expectations in a style inspired by Brené Brown work and give me a short message that can help me to avoid assuming I'm a failure and they regret working with me? Answer, this feedback is not about my worth or identity, it's about my work and my growth. My supervisor investment in giving me feedback is a testament to their belief in my potential, not a measure of my failures. There we go. Guilt and shame. Wrong. I have a goal to submit my paper in 30 days, and I promised myself that I will be writing every day. To achieve it, today I haven't written anything. Give me a short message in line with Adam Grant's work to help me to find evidence that I can still reach my goal, even if I tell myself I'm failing in my writing commitment. Answer, no one performs at 100% all the time. Missing one day of my writing doesn't derail my progress. It's a reminder to adapt and move forward. There we go. Long one. Talk to your paper as if it's your peer and not your master. It doesn't owe you. Prompt. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. I've been working on my paper nonstop for days. I haven't had decent weekend or done things that I love in a while. And yet my paper is nowhere to be ready. And I don't even believe anymore that the results are interesting. To spend even more time trying to publish it. Can you use the work of Esther Perel to help me overcome this mental dead end by allowing me to have a conversation with my paper? Esther Perel is a therapist, right? So she's a couple therapist, and I like how this scenario imagines the paper as your couple. So it basically says, first express your feelings. Tell your paper, I've spent a lot of time with you, and I'm feeling exhausted and disconnected from the passion that brought us together. I'm struggling because I feel like I'm not progressing as well as I hope. Okay, ask your paper a question. What do you need from me to become complete? Are there specific areas where you feel we could improve together? What can I do to make our results more compelling or our arguments stronger? Yeah, Dana says listen to the answers. I mean, not the answers, but listen to the thoughts that come up in response. These are often your subconscious thoughts bubbling to the surface. You might realize there are specific sections that need reworking or perhaps a different angle you hadn't considered before. Then negotiate your needs, very important one. Tell your paper, I will give you 2 more weeks of focused effort, but in return, I need some time this weekend to recharge and do things that I enjoy. Yeah. However, I don't know if you noticed that all these prompts that I was writing, they all had this kind of positive side, right? I'm really down, I'm not feeling great, this whatever is blocking me. It's it's okay to say that, but it's not kind of helpful for AI to know that you're only down. It needs to see where to reframe it to. Because if you only ask it in a negative way, it will help you to stay in the negative way, basically. And a little bit to that is, so this one I saw in the book, and I thought it's, like my colleagues actually pointed the interest difference with the other cases, right? So here is the prompt that I was thinking of writing a book about AI, but I'm very busy and I don't think I want to make such a large commitment. Can you reframe my failure to write a book as a huge loss rather than a default option? Make the framing of it. And then the answer. It's a long one with this. The decision not to write is like a star that never reaches its supernova phase. quietly fading without revealing its brilliant potential to the universe. Yeah, so basically, if you ask it to say, you know, I'm like, please tell me what's a loser I am, it will help you out. So don't do that. Like if, you know, in the previous scenarios, like always see what's, can you reframe it to make me do things, right? Or stay on my side, not on the other side. Okay. Other tasks related to working in research that ChatGPT or other AI tools can help. What I personally found very useful is writing instructions for students with ChatGPT, because I've learned that my level of understanding of what I need to say for the task to be done is 3 steps above of what the person who hasn't worked with that task needs to know to do that task. So to me, the ChatGPT is an amazing thing. Kind of by now I've learned what I need to say, but before it was a whole discovery. And I really felt sorry for my assistants that they had to find the first 3 steps by themselves. Second is generation the logos for your research projects. So whatever projects you do, if it has some you know, external visibility and you don't have a budget assigned to hire someone. So what I usually do is I ask, and that's also a lot how I generated images for this thing. I always use somebody who is an artist, right? I say, you're Leonardo da Vinci, and I want to commission you to develop a logo for me. And then I specify what kind of logo it is. And then as a response, it tells me, well, you know, if I need to do the logo, then I would envision this and this and this, right? And then I say, yeah, please do that. Or I change something in the answer that it operationalizes my you know, technical requirements for for my logo as a Leonardo da Vinci. And recently we were doing the one for this international partnership for occupational coding. And so what me and ChatGPT came up with, it was this like little spiral made of different tools. So it had like, you know, the mechanical workers tools or like doctors, syringes and whatever. So it was like all these tools that I used in different jobs, and they were like all in this tiny spiral, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. The only drawback with this using artists as somebody to talk to generate images is that ChatGPT does not generate anything. So you cannot ask it to be anyone who is from 20th century. So no Manet, no Matisse, no Kandinsky, no Pollock, no, continue with me. Huh?
No.
Yes, so somehow it's still like Salvador Dali. I don't know why. So Salvador Dali, you can ask it to be Salvador Dali, and it will work with you. But otherwise, you have to use anyone who is already long dead. Yeah, so that's a bit of a shame, right? Because abstractionism kind of came only recently. But yeah, maybe your images will be very classy ones. The one I had with Raphael. Yeah.
What about copyright stuff? Like you never risk running into a copyright issue because like it's copying style from somebody else, whatever.
I mean, so my answer to that would be, again, based on the training that I was having with this copyrighted people. So even in Germany, nobody knows what is allowed, right? In a way with a ChatGPT. I think it's more tricky for the corporate people. I think for science research, because we aren't making money anyway out of it. And so to me, I think it's fine. Again, I did speak with few lawyers, not on that specific case, but again, during the meetings, and what they said that they don't know the answer. So for their business purposes, they don't use it as an idea, that you use it, internal ideas. Yeah. Okay. Or right, so logos, then communication strategies for events like DataFest, right? We recently had it at, this year it was here in Mannheim, but we switched between Elmo and Mannheim. And it's one of the events that requires, so right, it's the 15 teams of young people who 48 hours do something, and that has Twitter, it has LinkedIn, and things have to appear, right? And you don't have comms team to keep writing. And of course, as a researcher, nobody teaches you how to write 50 posts on the same kind of thing, right? The teams are working basically, right? Teams are working, 20 hours left, and etc. So I found ChatGPT very useful to generate ideas of what could be written and how frequently you should write, like that you should, I don't know, introduce teams, remind of the timing, I don't know, speak about the career sponsor. So all these things that I myself would have never thought, and it would have stressed me a lot to, you know, to be the one who has to be this social media face. But again, with this little helper, I was like a comms department, you know. Okay. Then what I also like is that I don't like how it writes the posts, right? That's why I don't include anything about writing with ChatGPT. But I do like that you can write the post or the tweet and then say, can you add the emojis? Because I think the ones with the emojis are a bit easier to read, and then use your text, but then just ask for to make it a bit more alive. Project abbreviations, that's another part that I really like. And so it sometimes takes forever, but then again, you know, that thing never gets tired. And to generate images to accompany your social media posts or whatever. So I think there's this kind of trick that I try to mix it with between different artists all together, generate something, you know, a little different than you just ask, can you please generate the AI talking? Like that might be typical AI images done from, I don't know, this very detailed illustrative type of things. And yeah, but then also helps to get interested in the art world, right? Because when when you want to generate a specific thing, or you go to the art museums, like these days when I go to the art museum, I'm like, that's a nice one, right? Like I should try to tell ChatGPT to be a Rembrandt or something, or somebody who is a bit less known, and then say, okay, I'd specifically like this kind of environment. So can you, you know, bring something from there? Yeah. Okay, moment to reflect. We had 10 things to walk through. We've learned that we always have to be between AI and the outputs that we produce as people, right? Because we're still there. That AI can help us with research questions, with finding relevant articles, with finding connected papers, with reading papers, doing some analysis, like relabeling variables, and but again, paying attention because it does whatever it wants, not always what we want. How we can do the proofreading, present our results, and help us with the motivation to not get stuck with our research, and to be better instructors in the science communicators. And here, that's it. We can discuss. You can give the feedback, ask questions. Find me on LinkedIn.
Where did we get that image?
Was
Like that AI generated?
no, this one is in the library of this tool.
Okay.
So if you have questions, for those joining online, you can either post your question in the chat or just raise your hand.
Thanks a lot. That's really interesting, really diverse. So like usually like undergrads, student assistants are hired to do literature review. So I wonder, like, do you have experience, like how we can like train them in doing this, or like how do these tools change these like usual tasks from that?
I have another microphone because there is an echo. No, I don't.
Any suggestions in case we wanna like do that? Like
I mean, it's a task, right? That is, even if you're not a student assistant, even if you're a researcher, it's still a hard task to do. And you would have to be a double, like a double human in the loop, because you don't know what student assistants rely on. You cannot say, please don't use ChatGPT, because they might. And because they're, I don't know, tired, upset, they don't have time, etc. And then if you don't check I mean, you are the one who is accountable for the final product. So in that way, I think it's either you ask for a list of the quotes with, when I write my literature reviews, I usually put a table and I say, for example, data quality. And then I say, okay, data quality is in its length of answers, it's the number of non-responses, it's the bias of the responses, and then I say where it came from. Right, so at least I know that I worked through those papers, I personally extracted it, sometimes it's the actual quotes. And so that could help that if you specify the output, the research output, not to be the summary, you have to write that summary yourself. So we hope that your research assistant will be your right for you. Maybe that should be the goal. I mean, but I don't know.
Yeah, you said you intentionally skipped the step of writing and drafting. Maybe you could go into more detail about why you think it's not useful to use AI for writing tasks, or whether there are subtasks of writing where it may be more suitable, like outlining, structuring a paper, generating an abstract from text, or shortening text. We all get our reviewer asking, oh, this paper is too long. And it's sometimes extremely hard for us to shorten the text that our heart is in to cut things out.
Of course, right? You put all your heart and soul in this, 30 pages, and let me tell you, no, that was actually just 10. So writing ones, I used to think, or when ChatGPT or when just started appearing, or even before the ChatGPT, the GPT-2, when they could access it. So back then I thought it's very interesting to get some ideas to start and then keep writing. I think now when I write more, I don't have this blank page issue, or I use what the books advise, like books on writing, they give you also prompts, but then ChatGPT could definitely be used for those prompts to say, they tell you, talk to your paper, right? What is it that we need to be complete, or what makes one little difference? So if you had to talk to your grandmother about your paper, what would you write? So just to get you in the right one. But I think the quality of the text that ChatGPT generates, especially for social scientists, it's just not good enough. It might be that I have very unrealistic standards of what is good enough. That's also possible. But again, what they train the models on includes a lot of bad quality novels that are open published, right? They scroll the internet, and it's a small portion of the science papers that go through the peer reviews or some quality checks, and a lot of the self-publishing everything that was also in the model. So I think it's just statistically speaking harder to expect that the quality product that has been trained on a lot of average stuff would be somehow high quality. And I also think that your voice as a researcher disappears if you rely too much on those tools, because when I just started using it, I thought, wow, that's so smart. It uses all these very nice expressions that I never use, and I thought, wow, I could learn so much from it. But then somehow I thought that me not using these expressions is it's still my voice in a way, and it's not the end of the world that I don't use them. And I mean, especially it's also maybe a sign that I didn't write it with ChatGPT because I don't use them. So yeah, I think it's in the long term, I think it might hurt you as a person with a recognizable voice in a way. But again, if you're too distinct, then the ChatGPT can be trained on your voice and become like you. Thank you.
Question from somebody online. You have experience with LLMs that can be used within programming IDEs like GitHub Copilot. And what about open source LLMs like Llama or Orca Mini? Are such models useful for research productivity?
I don't use them, so I wouldn't know. I think I'm very much for open science in general, or open science LLMs, open science anything. Because I think that more competition isn't there, and it's the better the product will be. Again, we're at the very beginning, we're working with the worst that will ever be in here. But unfortunately, we're stuck with this thing. And no, so I don't have an experience, but I think they definitely could be useful. And I'm sure they will be products built not on the ChatGPT itself, but on the open source models. It's just, I think the legally wise, right? Because we're like in the EU, we have to go through this AI Act compliance, and the open AI, the open science companies, they're like trying to find their legal space before they start building on like other tools that use Llama and it's et cetera. But I'm sure in a few years we will get the market that will have similar tools based not on ChatGPT. So I mean, I don't see why ChatGPT, like it's not the best model ever existing, right? It's just the model that's monopolized the market quite a bit. And there are tools that were built on that model, but I don't think it has to stay that way. Or I wish it doesn't stay that way. So otherwise we're stuck with whatever they train their model
on. Have you heard of a tool called Grammarly AI?
Grammarly in general, or Grammarly AI?
In general. And have you used it? Can you recommend it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Can you say a few words about it?
I mean, it helps also with your editing, with the editing of your writing, right? It doesn't have this the temptation of rewrite it for you completely and to make it AI voicey. I mean, I'm sure with AI, it probably now I haven't used it in a while, so probably now it's there to help you rewrite. But then I think we're in a bit of a gray zone in a way, because I think the big publishing houses will use AI and will allow usage of AI for editing at some point, because there is a lot of papers that's unpublished or published with, but they are like not good quality language wise, because there are lots of people who are, again, not native speakers. And I know somebody from the Elsewhere publishing house, and they had their whatever the data team that was working on how to help everyone who submits their papers that just not good language wise, but they have good results, etc. So if they could write a better English, that would be a better thing. So I think at some point, maybe I don't know what's the policies of this publishing houses, but I guess because I mean, all these AI models are very hungry for high quality data. Right, and some of this prognosis says that we're basically 2 years away from running out of high quality data to be used for training of these models. And then theoretically speaking, this bad language written, but quality science papers could be the buffer zone that could also be used for training, but they need to be published anyway. So maybe AI could be used to help that. But again, now we're not in this regulation, and I personally do worry that I don't know what would happen to any of us if our paper then gets scrutinized through this AI checks and then says, "Oh, you used AI for publishing, and it's your degree is out, your job is out, and go do something else." So that's to me that. That's something that I don't want to happen to me until there is some clarity on how much you can use it, or what's the allowed tool that you can click on a button and proofreads for you, and everyone knows that it proofreads for you, but it's acceptable level of AI intervention. I think, that could be, I guess, a way to go, but it's not there yet. So that's why I try to recommend tools where you are in charge of how much things change in your writing. Again, because I don't want neither myself nor anyone here to be subjected to explain why you're writing like an AI.
Okay, unfortunately, we're already at the end of the social science data lab. Thank you so much, Olga, for being here and sharing your insights on kind of the tools, what works, what also doesn't work. And yeah. Thanks again so much. Data Lab will be back next week already by Carla Rowold from the Max Planck Institute for Demographic Research, who will present on an accumulation of gender inequalities in the old age, exploring life course and gender-sensitive approaches for analyzing gender pension. So thanks for joining and see you next time.